Welcome everyone tonight. This is the regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission, here in Reno, Texas, Monday, March the 7th, 2022. We do have members here tonight. I'm Commissioner Derek Parks, Chair. We have Mr. Leroy here, Vice Chair. We have Mr. James, Meg, and we have two city staff members, being Director of Development Services and Planning and Zoning Manager. So we have one consent agenda item tonight, which is item A, which is consideration of approving the minutes, following meeting minutes of the City of Reno Planning and Zoning Commission, February 7th, 2022. Commissioners, did y'all have a chance? Any questions on those minutes? And can I have a motion?
To approve the minutes from March 15th.
Right. All right. Agenda item A has been approved. Moving down to the new business, which is item B, is conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change from Plan Development Zoning District 34, PD 34, to Plan Development 34R5 to allow for a reduction in landscaping due to the right-of-way takings by TxDOT for the widening of FM 664 on approximately 1.17 acres on Lot 2, Block A of Reno Corners Retail, addressed as 109 East Mobilla Road, in Reno, Texas. Case number 00222-04. Requested by
Department of Transportation is widening the SS for anywhere from 139 feet along the front of the site and approximately 70 feet to 31 feet. This right of way is actually used from the site. The applicant will be providing just the minimum required landscaping as shown on the attachment. Staff recommends approving the zoning change request with the condition that one branch is placed at each column in the front facade of the building, and the turf on the west side of the property be replaced with shrubs.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing.
Yes.
Public hearing. Those in favor of this item, you can go first. Then after those in favor, we can go to the individuals that are against this item. And then we have another session where you can have questions. So those that are in favor of this item B, could you please go to the stand and put your opinion on why you're in favor of item. Have anyone in favor of item B? Is anyone there or here that's going to talk about, or they're not in favor of item B, or if they have any questions for item B? Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're trying to pull it up off Zoom, so the folks on Zoom aren't.
Okay, that's fine. Man.
People online are saying they're having a hard time hearing you guys.
Got it.
Pick up a little.
Okay.
How many do we have online?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, that's fine. I don't wanna miss, do we have a commissioner online? Somebody,
We got,
I can't.
a city council.
What is it?
How many people do we have online?
You got quite a few people online.
Is there any way of, expanding so we can see?
You can post a petition today, you can click on the petition, stop there.
I guess we're trying to see if we have any more commissioners, so.
I do not see any other.
Oh.
No?
I don't see any other commissioners online.
Okay. Want to rephrase the question?
Did y'all want to start back over? You know,
No, I think we've opened the public hearing. Is that
Yeah.
what we've done? Okay, so, Dole Rodriguez, I see you online there. I know you were the applicant on this. If you have anything to add or, say, then, now would be the time, for you and your team.
Hey, Howard, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Doyle Rodriguez. Address is 109 East Ovilla Road.
Go ahead.
All right, you can go ahead and speak on your item. You for or against, and, any other information you'd like us to know?
Yes, thank you. So if we go to the landscape plan, in the last set we submitted, we're proposing to move the monument sign to the left. But in reality, we are trying to keep its current location. So yeah, that's the landscape plan. If we go one back, the site plan one, SPO one, yeah. So we can see the location, the previous location, and also we can see on red the future TX dot curb line cut. And we are wanting to try to keep it in its current location and not moving to the left.
Let me explain what he's talking about, and let me pull up the,
Thank you.
give me just a second.
Ask you a question while we're doing that, Michelle, next week off.
Yeah.
So according to what's going on with tax stuff, we're gonna have to do this with every potential customer. I thought we had made a,
Not every, so we have a lot that can still meet all of the requirements, and then some that can't, like, so they couldn't, we have another case tonight that couldn't.
exactly.
Some of them can, but there is pretty significant takings that are impacting the area they have allowable to do what they need to, that they're supposed to do.
But didn't we earlier in the year talk about with the way that the tax stock is coming in, you know, having to say sort of what they're gonna take over and how much they're gonna take.
Right.
So we can't penalize them, but at the same time, is there a way that we can get the tax stock, find out if they're able to bring in the landscaping for them?
Yeah, so we did ask the applicant to ask TxDOT that very question, and the response was that TxDOT would be taking out the trees in the front there, and so that in this case, they were going to have to remove the trees that were there. And the applicant or the landowner has been, that was supposed to have been included in the taking agreement and in the compensation that they were paid, which is supposed to be what they're using this to do the new landscaping with. But what he was specifically just referring to is they turned in this document that shows the monument sign being moved
Right.
because of this, if you can see this red line right here.
The bar line.
Yep, that's gonna be the new curb line for their driveway and the TxDOT road. So it's gonna come out here, and the new curb will be out here, and they're taking this area here for right-of-way. So leaving the monument sign in this location is a poor decision, because of its proximity to the new curb line. So it would be a safety issue as, you know, people are turning quickly in here. There's pretty good chance that, you know, it's not gonna get hit every day, but, you know, there's just a good chance of making a bad situation when it could be easily moved over, as they've shown on their plan.
Right. So they would just be losing that one parking spot?
Yeah, that's what they're showing here.
So that's the bottom line, if we're looking at them losing a spot, we drop them below the minimum requirement.
Well, they're losing this spot, but they were already a PD, which dictated their parking. So they had their parking and their landscaping lined out in their PD, which is set in stone.
Right.
So any change to that means we have to amend the PD. So that's why we're bringing this forth, is merely to amend the PD. So now, staff has requested, since we're losing all these trees and what were supposed to be shrubs out in the front, that we add some shrubs in back here. And then we initially talked about, adding some planters back in here, and the applicant said they did not want to do that. So we would recommend that you guys, you know, approve it with staff recommendations. But, Mr. Rodriguez, did I explain your position correctly that you were just talking about?
Yes, thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Rodriguez? Rodriguez?
Is anyone else, for or against this item or any questions? I can have a motion to close.
Hello, may I ask a question? This is Lisa Swift with GSO Architects, 5310 Harvest Hill, Dallas.
Yes, ma'am.
Would there be, if this is approved with the parking space removed, would there be an option to have a one space credit in the PD to kind of make up for the space that is lost due to moving the sign, since that kind of impacts what they can, how much they can, what uses they can put in the building in the future?
So the way we've written it, sorry, this is Ben Hartman, staff. The way we've written this PD is just that whatever uses you have in the commercial district, just as it is now, you would follow all your C1 standards. I'm questioning why we're, you know, Mr. Rodriguez asked me this on Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and now you're asking us to give you credits on parking. Seems like something that should have been thought about when you came forth originally. What is now changing, I guess? Was no one aware that you were submitting plans that showed a parking space being removed?
I think it was a coordination item between architectural and landscape. Yes, I apologize.
Okay. Well, I'll let the commission decide whether they want any language added to the PD that, dictates a parking stall being credited. Are you guys having trouble meeting any of your parking right now? It looks like you have quite a few spaces. 13,000 square feet. Do you know the answer to that? Do you guys have issues when finding tenants if they have the appropriate amount of parking?
I think the issue is the owner just wants to keep their options open for if they had a tenant change that required more parking.
Well, you've got 80 spaces, and a typical retail requirement is 1 per 200, and that at 13,000 square feet, that's only 65 spaces. So yes, there are more intense uses, since say if a restaurant went in there, that'd
Right.
be 1 per 75.
I think that's the issue, is to preserve their ability to do restaurant in the future.
Okay. Okay. I guess from a practical standpoint, though, the restaurant, even as it is today, if you had 2 restaurants in there, you'd be eating up a big chunk of your parking. I guess it all depends on square footages. But there is
Right.
also the option for parking agreements with the neighbors. I think what is that, the Arby's next door, you know, they're almost, is it, what is it? Is it
Chinese wall.
the Chinese, okay.
They're almost always,
But they're also mostly drive-through, is that
correct?
correct? So there's options for parking agreements, because I don't think they're using a lot of their spaces, neither does the Arby's, down the way, but I will leave that to the commission to instruct us to add that to the PD.
Mayor, do you have any other questions?
So staff recommended that they put planters and they did not want to plant.
Correct. They mentioned not having a good option to get water to the planters. You know, that's a feasible, I know it's a feasible thing to do, but it's also a reasonable request that they didn't want to figure it out. So the staff's only intent is to try and replace as much greenery as possible due to losing the trees on the front of
And they
the
were
lot.
compensated for that, and which they've taken away, correct?
They were supposed to have been. I don't know all the dealings between them and TxDOT. I don't know what the numbers were. I don't know if if they gave them a specific allowance for each tree or anything like that, or if it was just included in the value of the land.
So pretty much it's a recommendation. Commissioners, do you have any questions or thoughts on
Just, bring it here, down live. Crosswalk. Are they doing any of that for parking, or?
I'm sorry. Let me jump back over to
I don't think the parking is a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one space, I mean,
yeah.
so, I mean, as it stands right now, with the traffic that's there, I don't see there being a problem. If we're to approve it, I will be based on staff's recommendation.
I'm sorry. I was trying to find it.
I mean,
Okay.
included in one spot, which for right now is really a non-item. So like I said, we would approve it based on following staff recommendations. They go by your recommendations that we can approve.
Okay. the motion would be to, approve with staff recommendations
Yes.
per the report.
Correct. With the plans.
All right, Commissioners, can I have a recommendation, please?
Motion to approve item B, with the recommendation of planners to replace availability.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Agenda item B has been approved. The next agenda item is agenda item C. And agenda item C is conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change from agricultural to plan development district, 134 for 114 single-family homes, associated open spaces, and one commercial lot on approximately 84.665 acres as the Lucy Vaughn Survey, abstract number 1103, further described as being generally located on the southeast corner of Benson Lane and Pratt Road in the city of Red Oak, Texas. Case number is Z as in zebra, C 22-05, requested by Wildwood Development Company. Staff, please.
Okay, let me jump to a map. This is kind of on the outskirts of the city limits. At the corner of Pratt Road and FM 2377 out to the east side of the city. Just to orient everyone, we're, over here at City Hall, and there's the middle school here. Head east on 2377, come to Pratt Road, and then the property we're talking about is 85 odd-ish acres right here. So it is currently in the city limits, and it's currently zoned ag. So the applicant is requesting to do single family, which aligns with the comp plan. All right, get back over to. Like the notice said, it's 114 single-family lots, 7 common areas, mostly along the frontages. The comprehensive plan talks about having commercial retail centers on major thoroughfares, so they have accommodated that request by having a commercial lot at the corner of Pratt and 2377, which doesn't make a ton of sense right now, but as we are visioning and looking towards the future, that is something certainly we need to have out there, because those are going to be 2 major thoroughfares. Our plan, as well as the county's plan, identify them as a 100-foot right-of-way north and south on Pratt, and then 120-foot right-of-way for 2377. So their corner will be essentially a hard commercial corner of 2 really major roadways. For our PD regulations, if you have any questions, we can go through them. They're pretty standard. I think what we want to focus on, I'll show you the layout here. So this is obviously in an area of the city that we don't have sewer, so they're doing large lots so they can accommodate septic. Minimum half acre, and as y'all know, we permit the on-site septic systems down to a half acre because that is the state minimum requirement. Now, the county requires an acre, but since they are in the city, we have control over the septic permitting, so we allow down to a half acre, just because we don't really have a plan for sewer right now.
Is that Ovilla up at the top?
No, this is Venson Road here. This is a very poor condition road. It's asphalt. I think maybe it starts out at about 20 and then goes down to 18 and then to 16. And then when it gets to about, I think, right around this area, it goes to dirt. So part of the improvements will be to provide a concrete road from the existing Pratt Road all the way to the end of the subdivision.
That would be on their expense or else?
Yeah, that's the development expense. 24-foot wide, which is, I would consider just a bare minimum, for, that's something similar we require in commercial parking lots, is that they provide a 24-foot fire lane, so it's similar in nature to that. The interior streets will be 29-foot wide, curb and gutter, storm drain, much like a standard neighborhood. Again, here's what I was mentioning, the commercial piece. It's about 6.5-ish acres, which again, doesn't make a ton of sense right now, but, as staff in the city, we've got to think long term. And so with these roads being as major as they will, 2377 goes all the way over to 45, so it'll be a secondary connection most likely in the future, similar to Ovilla in terms of connectivity from Red Oak to 45.
There's no parks or anything set aside like we have in the other.
So they have provided a detention area, which is required, and they did add some amenities to it. There's a pergola called out. There's a sidewalk that goes around the detention area as kind of a small walking trail. But in the traditional sense of what you're describing, like a park with a playground or something like that, no, that was not provided. Let me just jump quickly to some of the elevations for the proposed homes. They're all look like homes that would fit within a subdivision of this caliber from a size perspective and a materials perspective. The minimum square footage for the homes will start at 2,200. And then obviously there's no cap on square footages. The cap would be lot coverage caps. But again, varied elevations. There's a mix allowed of front entry and side entry or rear entry garages. I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it was 75-25.
There was some rear entry?
Well, they're not in the sense that they have alleyways, but just that in the sense that you would drive down a long driveway to the back of your lot where there would be the garage would be facing the backyard. And it's just allowed, not required, a J entry and a side entry and a rear entry. It's basically 25% of the lots can have front entry garages, and the rest must have J-swing side or rear entry. Yeah, let me finish just going through this, and you can kind of ask them questions as we get to that. And I think they're actually here in person tonight. But anyway, quality, high value products that would go, kind of along with an estate type size lot. So, as you know, we've been having to deal with these mailboxes past couple years because the post office requires now that, at one point they said, okay, no more single mailbox on a single family house. You got to do every 12 lots. and then it went to like 24 lots, and now they've just said, no, the whole thing has to be in one location. And so, with these things being now much more prominent in the subdivision, we definitely want to see more, we want to see what it's going to look like, right? And so, because it can get scary, they can look ugly real fast. So the developers provided some kind of concept of what they are thinking for providing, you know, the mailbox station. This would also be in the detention area. So, as you can see, you've got the metal box, and then, you know, we've asked them that, just like we would ask all the developers, is let's encase it in some kind of stone or something, or brick, to make sure that it looks like a nice feature in the development instead of a, you know, an apartment complex style. So this certainly provides intent, but maybe not the detail that staff would have liked, because ultimately, you know, it could end up in a tiff between the designer and staff at the time of actually going to construct this. And then what would ultimately happen is staff would have to say, okay, well, we got to take this back to see you guys because it's such a prominent feature of the development. We want to make sure that we're not just, you know, saying okay just to move on. They've also provided some entry concepts. There's a pretty wide berth for staff to interpret this. We would typically want to see a much more detailed plan. Again, I think it would come into question or maybe an argument or a disagreement of what this intended versus what gets submitted for actual construction plan. I just say all this, I'm kind of setting up where I'm going with this, but so here, the detention area. So the sidewalk goes around the detention, so it's a nice, you know, small walking trail around there. Right now, the mailbox center is proposed right here. I don't know that it will fit, just based on, you know, the mailbox units themselves, the size of them, and the amount that are needed, because I think the most you can get in one box is like 16, and you've got, I think standard's 12, and the bigger ones are 16, and they occupy, if you've got 10 of them, they occupy about 400 square feet, I think, is what I came up with. So that may not be enough room for it, so it may just have to go over here. And they did also, I mentioned they were saying a pergola. I don't have any other details on the pergola, on what it'll look like, what it's made out of, how big it is, how tall it is, the style of it, things like that. I don't have any of those details from the applicant.
They put 2 mailboxes if needed.
Yeah, so they're going to have to provide 10. Oh, location-wise.
Yeah, can they put 2 side by
Yeah, they can put them all side by side, but again, you start talking about an element that's 35 feet long,
Right.
and now it's like, wow, that's a really prominent feature as I come into this development. So we really want to see what it's going to look like.
It's not adequate parking there either, as we've done in the past, because if you got 4 people stopping there to get mail, you're blocking the roadway.
Right, and I guess my hope would always be that, you know, you kind of like those things because it's like encourages walking, but man, is this guy going to walk over there? No way.
Correct.
Right.
It's at the back, and it's also trying to serve double duty as a park and.
Right.
They probably would need to take the lot, slightly do it for my suggestion, and space it out, put parking. If you're gonna make it a park, you should put parking next to someone to take their dogs there, their kids there. But we can't allow them to say, hey, everything is just one thing, and you gotta block the traffic there.
So this is a cross-section of Vinson. As you can see, it'll be, 24 foot wide. The current boundary goes to the center line of the street, which is why they've got it shown like this. But 24 foot, the existing's 20 foot in some places dirt, like I said. But 24 foot concrete, 6 inches of concrete, over 6-inch lime subgrade. Along Vinson, they're proposing a, metal screening fence, and I'll show you a picture of that, with, landscape, like a 10-foot landscape buffer with trees and shrubs and things like that. And then a 5-foot meandering sidewalk, which is typical on all of our developments of,
There's sidewalks through the neighborhood.
Yes, there's sidewalks throughout the neighborhood. Now, the sidewalks get put in when the builders develop each lot, they put in their sidewalk along their frontage, but along the HOA lots and the perimeter streets, the developer is required to put in the sidewalks. So again, detention over here, this is the drainage plan. I won't go through this with you. They are bringing, this is Rocket Water, they're having to bring, several hundred linear feet of off-site water, to get the appropriate fire protection in the subdivision. Oh, okay, sorry, let me jump over PowerPoint.
Their layout for, to be honest, we talked about sheds and possibly not.
Yes. Sorry, let me pull it up. So, Spoonie just asked about the layout with a septic system in the back to make sure there was enough room. So they did provide an exhibit showing that, yes, you know, with a 30-foot build line and the size of the lot, you could have a pool and a shed and still fit in your septic spray field back here, which I think is important because, you know, we don't want to just, we want to encourage people to improve their properties beyond the builder and you know, really allow them to increase the value of their house.
Okay.
This one shows a different layout that still fit a pool right in here, but so we did receive a landscape plan today from the applicant. It didn't necessarily meet the criteria that we had asked for, and there's still some components that need to be addressed. But in general, the idea is that you've got 10-foot landscape buffer here, 10-foot landscape buffer here. Here's your detention back here.
How is that going to impact when 64 wide goes down?
I'm sorry.
This floor's gonna widen all the way through 45.
This is, are you talking about 2377 to the south? This piece here? This is miles from 664.
No, no, that's not there.
No, this is miles away, so, this is really far south from it. So the concerning piece that we're worried about widening is 2377, which has been accounted for. So here's a small vignette of the detention area. So like I said, here is that small mailbox area that certainly doesn't seem like it'd be able to fit, but I can't tell because we didn't get a site plan or anything like that that would show all the mailboxes. Also, here's the area where they're showing there'd be a pergola, but I have no details on what else it would look like, size, shape, things like that. And then, of course, the sidewalk that I already mentioned going around property. They have provided small vignettes for the main entry, with the, kind of the monument sign here. I think, just got this today, so we didn't have a lot of time to review it, but in general, it's lacking in terms of, well, not only, I don't know how big it is, I don't know what the dimensions are. I guess I could just make an assumption based on the size of this car. But I would say it's lacking in the mix of plane undulation, vertically and horizontally, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about there. This is the fencing that's proposed along Vinson with the landscaping, and then trees spaced 40 foot on center. And then it doesn't show it, but the text requires a brick or stone column every 40 feet. So assume these are 10-foot panels, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there'd be another brick column here. That was it, huh? So they did provide a fence plan. So one of the things that we were concerned about was having all of these lots that kind of back up to existing homes and things like that, and just wanting and being able to see it from 2377 as you come up north, and just making sure this was all uniform. So the developer agreed to do a wood fence that was uniform in both style and color, and the HOA would dictate the color of the fence. And at the time of platting, we would, want to see the HOA documents that spell out responsibility and color prep and all that stuff for the fence. And it also goes along this boundary as well. So along this boundary, let me start out by saying typically we would require masonry along all perimeter streets. In this case, we felt like as long as we got masonry along Pratt, which is the main big right-of-way, that Vincent could be something a little softer, like wrought iron with landscaping, versus having brick along Vincent. So let me over to. So some clarifications that I guess staff would like to see is, we typically require decorative street lights and street signs in every neighborhood. And they have, in the text, it does say that, so we would just like to add, an exhibit that shows, here's the different styles of what is considered to be decorative. So, black metal pole, powder coat, with an acorn style top or lantern. Street signs would obviously want to match the poles, so same thing, black powder coated with appropriate signage at appropriate locations. so like I said, they did provide somewhat of the mailbox, concept, but again, what I was saying about how many you're gonna have there, it seems like we'll need a little more clarification. So I found just a few pictures that could be added, if you guys liked the look of them, just to show different ways you could group more mailboxes together and not have them just be in the metal boxes. These are all, so this has a little bit of a wood element to it, so I chose this one and this one because they've got, you know, the pergola right there too. So maybe the pergola also looks like the mailbox covering or something, just to kind of tie it all together. Or maybe the pergola gets expanded and it's triple the size of what they're thinking right now, but it doubles as a feature as well as the mailbox center. I don't know. Again, all these details that I don't know what their intent is, and if the intent comes in for permitting, then I don't know what to do, and so we end up back here anyway. And I do want to specifically prohibit this style of mailbox grouping, so that we're not stuck with something like this. Because right now, the way it is, you know, I mean, I guess I couldn't really prevent them because it just says concept on it. So I want to make sure we're, you know, specifically not doing something like this. So on the main entry concepts, like I mentioned, theirs was very flat with no horizontal or vertical plane differentiation. And so I think something like this would be a better concept picture to provide that shows, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 changes in vertical height. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 changes in material. You know, I've got multiple landscaping elements. So that I can kind of, I can see getting a little better product on. Same here. I've got, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 vertical changes and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 horizontal plane changes, and some variation in material as well. Looks like 3 different materials, but that just would help staff review it and I think ultimately get a better product without needing to come back to you guys. One of the other things that I thought was important on this was that they've got such a prominent corner there at Pratt. Oh man. At Pratt and Vincent right there. So again, this is not necessarily today, but as this gets developed and this road widens, this is going to be a really prominent corner as you're driving south on Pratt. And so one of our comments to the applicant was, hey, why don't you guys, you know, use this as a branding opportunity to brand your subdivision? We've been having a real hard time understanding the aesthetic intent of the development, just through lack of documentation and lack of documents provided that would clarify that for us. And so my thought is, you know, hey, let's get something out there that, you know, showcases that, hey, this is Hunter's Ridge of Red Oak, Texas, and it's, you know, a really high value subdivision. And with a name like Hunter's Ridge, I thought, well, why don't you provide some sculpture of a deer or something out there, you know, along with some element that kind of highlights your corner. They never really responded to the comments, so I'm kind of relaying my, I guess, intent of the original comment, is to have something like this at the corner of Pratt and Vincent, you know, with the name of the subdivision and then some branding element that is related to something that someone would consider Hunter's Ridge, I guess. So again, I'm kind of going through and trying to get clarity on the fencing and all the elements in the subdivision, and this is one of the clarity items. You know, the documents just say wood fence, board on board cedar, capped and trimmed. That can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Picture's worth 1,000 words, you know, so I think this, you know, picture should just be included in the document, just so that it's clear. It's a 6-foot cedar fence, board on board. It's got a cap and it's got trim. So that's where I was showing you guys that along that southern border and along that eastern border. Now, the masonry wall, we've gotten no depictions of that, and on the last submittal, it was removed. I talked to the applicant about it. Did say that he thought that might have been a mistake, but I'll let him talk about that more. But again, we don't have any aesthetic detail. We don't know what it's going to look like. So I want to just provide a picture for some kind of, you know, something to shoot at. And this is a simple brick screening wall, but it's not just, you know, the issue with brick screening walls is they create this real bad corridor effect. And so you don't want to look like you're going down the road and just driving down a brick hallway. You want a little bit of, you know, so they're going to soften it up with the landscaping, but then also we want to create some kind of character and some offsets in here. So I would say at a minimum, we'd have a enhanced column every 50 feet or so. I think these are 40 foot on center if these panels are 10 feet. And it's also got 2 different variations of brick lay. So it's got the running bond, and then it's got a soldier, and then a running bond back on top. So it just gives it a nice, a little nicer appearance than just a straight brick screening wall, especially when you add in the feature columns there. They did provide a screening, as I showed you before, and it looks very similar to this. So the one in the documents they provided is probably fine. And then, you know, all I would need is something like this with some basic dimensions that says pergola that's 20 by 20 with, you know, 12 feet tall and, you know, whatever else they were providing in it, but it just wasn't provided, so we're just not clear. Because the problem is when they come in for permitting and they show me a 3x3 pergola and they just point at the zoning documents and say, look, it says pergola. And I say, well, why would that ever be the intent? Like, well, that's what we thought we were doing. And then I say, well, I thought you were doing this. And then we just end up back here because I don't want to knowingly accept that, because then I would have been misrepresenting it to you guys, I think. So overall, I think staff is happy with the layout of the development. They've met a lot of the requirements we've asked them to meet. I just think staff is needing clarity on, at a bare minimum, needing clarity on these items. So if the applicant's going to hear, he's going to talk, and if we're all comfortable with what he says, maybe it's something we can either approve with staff recommendations or approve with more exhibits, but it wouldn't come back to you guys. It would just go to the council, and the council would get the ultimate say. So it'd be up to you guys if you wanted to see all this stuff again prior to giving the recommendation to council.
I would also like to see the staff recommend that the entranceway is much more lighting, because my barrels was on 2277 cars. With that many cars going in and out of there.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just a little bit of light, people are going to stop, and it's going to create a headache. So I think we do need to make sure that it is very well lit in that area, especially coming right off of Pratt Road.
Yep, so our general requirement is we have a street light at every intersection. We start there, and then there's space 300 feet from there. So there would be one at the intersection. Oh, right, yeah, so, again, you know, more clarity from the developer would let us make those comments. We just don't have that clarity, but, if you guys did want to make a motion, you can write a whole long list of stuff. You can say staff recommendations and X, Y, and Z. So it's up to you guys. So I'll kind of concede my time. That was a lot of talking. Sorry about that. And again, I know the applicant is here and would love to answer your question.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. This is a public hearing. Those in favor of this item, please state your name and your address, please. We'd love to hear your comments.
My name's Chad Adams.
Chad, can you hang on one second? Can you motion to open the public hearing? I didn't hear a motion. Or can you ask somebody for a motion to open it?
A motion to open the public hearing for the item. Second.
Go ahead, Mr. Chad.
Thank you. My name is Chad Adams. I live in Midlothian, Texas, at 1360 Trophy Court West. Been in Midlothian now 27 years. Been around in these neck of the woods. I used to serve as the municipal associate judge, was the justice of the peace for the Red Oak area. So I don't know if I arraigned any of you here in this room, but hopefully not, no. And then served as county judge. I'm a member of this community. This is our first development inside of Red Oak, Texas. We've done developments in Midlothian, DeSoto, Duncanville, southern Dallas County, northern Ellis County, Oakleaf, Glen Heights. And so as we come into a community, we always try and grab what is the vision of the community, and we try and bring that into a development and make sure that we have a marketable product. And so we spent quite a bit of time. We've actually went before City Council, it was probably about 2 months ago, and said, hey, what do you guys think of this idea? And just kind of got some feedback from them. And they were excited about it because we're kind of playing off of Benson Lane and the development there. It has those large estates in that area. And we're going to put in this area on a larger lot, around a $400,000 to $500,000 home is what we're expecting to put in the area. And so we worked with the city staff, incredible city staff as in comparison with other cities. Just the turnaround was so quick and, their interest. But I will have to admit that we had a little bit of a breakdown on the landscaping. We were a little unprepared for the detail that the city of Red Oak asked for landscaping. And that's okay, and that's actually really good. But a lot of other cities, they don't ask for quite as much detail as they do, and so we appreciate that about Red Oak. And then in the middle of it all, our landscape architect had a family member that passed away. And so there is a little bit of a gap of communication of getting what the staff wants in the development. I think there's a couple things for us to think about in the development that we as a developer, when we come into an area, we work with, like I said, the community, in this case, Rocket Water District. And, I don't know how many of you are on Rocket Water, but, that's an issue. And so we are putting in about 2,800 linear feet of water line to come across this area, and that's pretty expensive for us to do. And everything is always just measured by costs. What's it cost to get into an area, and what's it cost to get out, and can we make a living, or are we working for free? And the other one is, of course, Benson Lane. And we had quite a bit of discussion with the city staff on this, and eventually we came to the conclusion that it does need to be improved, and, our trucks are going to be driving on that area, and so we are going to bear the cost of improving Benson Lane. It's a one-sided. We'll put up the screening wall on that northern side of it. So tonight, we are also a little bit on a time frame because we have to close on the property. And so, you know, we're contracted to buy it. We usually go through this process with the city. We get all of our approvals, and then we close on the property. We are committed to closing this property very, very quickly. So I thought tonight maybe we'll table this and come back, but we don't have the time for that. I want you to know that we are more than happy to work with the staff, and we have so far worked with them. There's been give and take. It makes reasonable and good sense. And we want to produce a classy product here. This is not a starter home development, okay? A starter home development, which we need those in the communities around, or just, you know, a home that somebody can get in for, you know, a lower price. It's a starter home. I lived in a starter home for a very long time, and this is a move-up market, and we really like the area there. We were a little perplexed why the city wanted us to put a commercial property in the middle of the country. And it is just country out there. We wanted more of an open feel, community, and they said, well, no, we got to be thinking ahead. And hats off to that. I'm working on another development in a neighboring community, and they have a major thoroughfare that's proposed to go by. TxDOT's already bought the property, and they're not inclined to put in a reserve area for commercial, and so it's very good foresight on the city of Red Oak. So with that being said, we're very excited to be in the community. We're looking at other areas to also build in Red Oak. We have good relationship. Unfortunately, I've probably known Todd Fuller. We've known each other since we were in our early 20s. Your city manager, he's been around for a very long time. His mom and I served when I was county judge, she was district judge or district clerk. And so we all worked in the community together. So we're committed here, and this is a little bit about our intent on this. I'll be happy to answer any detailed questions you have about it.
My area of concern was around the retention area. In many of the other subdivisions we've worked with, especially where we put mailboxes, again, you got over 100 homes there, people stopping to get mail. Most of them we have asked and they have provided, where they're able to pull in to get the mail instead of blocking the street to go there. Because, and just by a guess, you're looking at probably 4 separate boxes based on staff recommendations. And we don't want it to be the mailbox support retention center all in one space. If it could be adjusted and made where it's more feasible for someone to pull in and get their mail and not block the trash. Not block the road.
Yeah, I see your point, and to be honest, that was not even on our radar when we were thinking about this. And it's what we may do is we could break it up and put it in 2 different places, put the mailbox in 2 different places in the neighborhood, and because we did not do the design or layout for that mindset, for that thought. And
I caution you on that.
Yes, sir.
Because the post office, I believe, and instructing that they will not allow more than 1 space. I could be wrong, but the last couple of developers I've dealt with on this issue, they have said, got to be in 1 spot. So, be aware.
Yeah, okay. I guess trying to figure out where we're at in this process and to bring a parking in on that area, I don't know how we are going to be able to do that without losing maybe sidewalk or the aesthetics of the pergola area on it. Pardon me?
What size pergola are you guys?
Well, that was a detail of Red Oak that we did not have, but we will definitely be covering, the mailbox, with the aesthetics that the staff would recommend. And our pergola, I would like to see a pergola. I've done some over, probably, something where you can have a picnic or just sit down in. I mean, a lot of times people don't actually have a picnic. this entire development is a walkable development, so it's sidewalk all through it. And so this is more of a meditative location, you know, where somebody would want to just, you know, walk along. And so I would see that the pergola would be, you know, 12 by 12, maybe probably a little bit, actually probably a little bit bigger, maybe 14 by 14. But we would definitely provide drawings to staff. I mean, they're adamant about it, and we would need staff's approval, you know, before we move forward to the city council.
Because we're looking at all of these homes that have got those kids, parents don't want their kids to go to somewhere where they can play, or an area. I mean, if you're at the front of the neighborhood, the kids are gonna be in the street, so, and most of the developments we've worked on in Kalamazoo in the past, we have a small area where the kids can go walk the dogs and things like that. And like kids said, we're at 400 plus. In some of the other neighborhoods we've done, we've been able to, we went back and forth, we were able to get those things between council and us as far as making sure that community services to everyone. Because I guarantee there's gonna be kids out there. If they don't have a place to be, they're gonna be in the street.
So, yeah, this is often, do you have something along the same line?
Mr. Ed, I was wondering why that actor would like this place for that retention pond and that community gathering.
It's a great question. So the topo, in other words, the topographic of the area determines, you know, where our detention is going to be. And so that all flows down in that back corner. And so that's why that back corner was chosen. So it's an engineering matter that was decided. It was decided by engineers, not us, that that's going to be the area. And then, so what we do is, you know, actually the city asks for beautification of the area. And so that's why we put the sidewalk in it, and to, rather than just a green hole that sets off in the back, we went ahead and did the beautification or made it more of a park feel on it.
It would be more expensive than all that and reroute the retention.
Yeah, in this particular case, you can see, that was a good picture, by the way. I don't know if you could pull that up again. It's okay. So do you see just north of that deep creek? So that's where all the water is going to run to. And just Development 101, I had to learn this a hard way, but water flows downhill. I can't make it flow uphill. And so the water goes here. Now, our rule that we have to go in, just generally speaking, is the amount of water that comes off of the surface area when it's just a farmland is the amount of water that has to come off of it after we put the concrete roads on it. And so that detention slows that water down, and then it trickles out into the creek area. So that's kind of what determined that.
Is that the picture that's taking up that entire lot, pretty much? That pond is taking up pretty much one lot.
Yes.
So you didn't have the other.
It's taken up about a little bit more than 2 lots. But yes, sir. Yes, sir. And again, that's kind of an engineering number that decision is made. Now, sir, you had one question that I have left unanswered, and I forgot what that question was.
About the lighting before, or putting parking spaces there.
Yeah, no, I think I got all those. The lighting is just simply going to be a technical issue that comes out on the construction and design plans by the city staff.
I did want to pull this up, when we were talking about mailboxes, parking, blah, blah, blah. This is in another subdivision. Now, I don't know where this could go, but I think, Spoonie, this would kind of maybe play your fears, not having place for people to access. This is both pedestrian and vehicular access. I'm not sure that you can fit it in the subdivision. I don't know if there's something creative that could be done. I don't know, but, this is probably one of the better ones I've seen, constructed that integrate pedestrian and vehicular access.
Yeah, and just kind of, just kind of setting expectations, I mean, this would be a challenge to do, Ben, on this site.
I understand that, and
Okay.
this is, I think you would only end up, I think you could have enough mailboxes here on this one side, just a little bit larger subdivision.
Sure, I got it.
Have a little bit more, but again, this goes to my USPS comment where they're requiring, people
Everything in one
that are
place.
like half a mile away to come get their mail from there.
Yeah. So I do remember your question, sir. It was where the kids play.
Right.
And so one of the things that we always struggle with is density versus the larger lot. And so when we have a larger development with a lot more density, that's when we start putting park places because the kids don't have enough room to play. In this particular development, we expect that each one of the homes is going to have their own area to improve, either by pool or playground in it, because the lots are so big.
And I would agree to disagree, Paul, and
Sure.
because we live in a larger neighborhood, and our kids, we're all acre lots, and our kids are out in the street. And we do have green areas for them to play, because he was my neighbor, he'll tell you, our kids are out in the streets running around, and we all have acres, we have parks, but again, that's just my vision of it, that you're spending that kind of money, you look at Somerset, Mansfield, and all these other places, the other neighborhoods, they have a little something, we're not asking to build an amusement park, but just the greenery area that people, where the kids can go and play football, baseball, whatever, don't have to be a whole lot, but if that can be put in a way that there is an area for the kids, because I guarantee you, over half those houses are gonna have kids. And we live in Oak Tree Estates, we're on acre to 5 acres, and the kids are on the streets all the time. We have plenty of room for everybody.
So, just to make sure I got this clear, you live on an acre lot, and the kids, and you do have green space set aside,
Yes.
and the kids are still on the street. What? Did I miss something?
Well, no, I'm saying, the kids are in the street up and down, they do go down to the end of
Yes,
the
sir.
street where there is green space for them. But I'm saying, to think that every kid is gonna stay in their lot and play, it's not gonna happen. And I guess it's a factor of cost, but I'm just, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think the big cost item, is the Vincent Road that we had to hit on this. We're hopeful that we've laid enough space aside, maybe not for a football game, but space aside in the green area that, the kids can play. I don't know.
I think so. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else that's in favor of this item? In item C? Someone's on Zoom that wants to, on this item. Not anyone against this item, or have any other questions? Please state your name and your address. Yes, Dr.
My name's Eugene Richardson, and I'm a resident of Shiloh Downs, 150 Steel Dust Drive, and it's the community. If you go in Pedigree and go up north of the proposed development into Shiloh Downs, and so the entrance is Pedigree. It's a gated community. It's great that the developer, the applicant, is putting in homes that are not starter homes, but my first concern is the fence. Our community is a community of think, 48 homes, and the values are way north of 500,000, going towards $1 million and $1 million plus. And so, our phase one of our community, when you come in, those are 2-acre lots, and the minimum footage there is 2,500 square feet. So my first comment would be to help preserve our home values, which is good for the city and the county and tax revenues, that the minimum square footage I heard mentioned was 2,200. I would like to see that go up a little bit to 2,500. And that would be consistent with the minimum square footage at the first phase of Shiloh Downs when you first go into that gate that's pictured. The next concern that I have listening to the briefing is the material of the fence that's going to be along Benson. And thank you very much for wanting to develop Benson. That's great because, my God, it needs it. But the fence material is of a concern because I think I heard that some of those homes will be rear entry garages. And so through an iron fence, that would be visible from Benson on the approach into Shiloh Downs. And so, you know, everybody's free to do what they want in their backyards, and sometimes that becomes a collection area for stuff that you don't want to be seen from the front. And so my concern is that as you drive down Benson, and you look to your right, you see this hodgepodge of who knows what through that wrought iron fence. And it would really be nice if that was a solid masonry material. So those people that have rear or side entry garages, you can't see that collection of stuff, or their swimming pools for that matter. And I think those were the two concerns that I had, was the square footage and the material on the fence. Thank you for your time.
Can you remind us real quick if you guys are in the city limits or outside the city limits on Shiloh Downs?
We're outside. Y'all bump us to the.
Okay, so everyone, anybody speaking from Shiloh Downs, they're in the county versus the city, and so,
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify a couple things, so the rear entry garages are allowed, not required, and then makes a good point of stuff in the backyard, so we have code compliance. Like, we can't go out and tell them anything from a code compliance standpoint, but anything we can see from the right of way that's like junk or stuff like that, we send our code compliance officer out there to, like that.
This can be the board.
Yeah.
Unless y'all require wooden fences or something to that nature, if ever that would cut over too.
Right, but in this case, where the developer's asking for a different option than the brick screening, and then we typically don't want to have wood fences along a bigger right of way, just because it creates the opportunity for people to not take care of the fence.
Sure.
This guy takes really good care of the fence, this guy's got a cat fence, and this guy's got a regular dog ear fence, and it just doesn't look good.
The masonry, in addition to that, would also provide some noise reduction too, because that's one of the main reasons we moved out there was.
State your name and address.
Sorry, my name is Tony Tarpley, and I live also in Shiloh Downs at 174 Steel Dust. So I have a couple of concerns, and it has to do with infrastructure. So y'all mentioned you were gonna bring in some water. I don't know what direction you are, because right now, apparently our water is so poor, the pressure is. I have ours landscaped, but I had to go buy a pump to suck the water out and then go get permission from Rocket Water to do this. So if you're adding more from that same, without providing us more, then it's just gonna make a bigger burden for us.
Not developers here, so we aren't doing anything, the developers doing it, but, I will show you the exhibit they provided us. That shows they're bringing a 12-inch line from, so it's quite a bit ways off site,
Is it 23?
Oak Creek Road, down there, 2377. They're going to install at their own expense a 12-inch water line that runs up 2377, and then up Pratt, and then into to serve their development. How Rocket will require them to connect to existing lines, I don't know. We'll get into that during, or they will get into that with Rocket during, plan review stages. But certainly, I would think that your pressure grid.
It's coming from that direction,
lines that they're
absolutely, yeah.
So
So it's gonna
I can't promise you that, but
Sure.
that's the assumption that I would.
So y'all are talking about also fixing Benson for us, okay, which is just a seal field, hot top right now. Going from 2377 to Benson, are y'all gonna address that area?
Pratt Road will not be addressed in this, it's Benson Road, that is the area of concern. So, we have required the developer to, put in what we would consider the bare minimum for fire safety. We did look at Pratt Road, and we feel it's in good enough condition to pass from that point forward. So, well, I guess our fire guys looked at it.
I mean, you guys need to take a trip down Pratt Road, you ought to call it Patch Road, it is the worst word in this county.
That is a county road.
It is.
Certainly take that up with the county commissioner.
Well, I've done that, and the man just, you know, he brings a truck up and patches it.
And that's where we get into the issues, because the city is doing this part, then on the county part,
Right.
you know, it's kind of like,
Sure. So you've got a good farm market road right there in the front of that addition, and you've got Benson behind it, but right in front of that, I mean, that thing is towards smithereens now. You're gonna increase traffic 100-fold.
well, I think that's why staff is actually making them, from where they're doing the construction, building that road there, but
Well,
as far as Pratt.
Did I understand it right? You're fixing Benson.
That's right, and then nothing on Pratt, but again, when we looked at the layout, we also looked at the access point. So we've got 3 access points on Benson, 1 access point on Pratt, so the thought would be you'd have a lot more traffic entering off Benson to enter the 3 streets that are connecting on Benson versus Pratt. So I can't promise you that's the way we're gonna use it,
I get it.
but that's the.
Well, you gotta
the
remember,
logical thought.
Pratt is the only north and south road connecting Ovilla. And that, so everybody takes that to get to their schools and businesses and Wally Mart and all that other stuff. So, I'm telling you, it's just gonna get real busy, and we're gonna take a bad road and make it even worse.
I understand, so the city is currently putting in place, what are called impact. So impact fees are anytime someone builds a new, and they're assessed, through the development phase, but they're collected at the time of building permit. So when building permits are submitted, we collect what's called an impact fee. It's the impact that a home makes to a system, whether it's a thoroughfare system, or a water system, or a sewer system. And so that all goes into a fund, which then is utilized at a later time to make improvements there. So this would go into a fund which goes to, updating our thoroughfare system, which Pratt Road is on the thoroughfare system. It's on the county thoroughfare system as well. Can't tell you that's gonna happen anytime in your lifetime, but these things are being put in place so that we can collect an appropriate amount of money from the certain impacts that developers are making as they develop. Now, this is a tough area because we're splitting it with the county, and there's county maintenance, city maintenance, and things like that, so, but as the city grows and annexes more properties, then it becomes more viable for us to actually do those projects versus trying to get.
And that is something that we addressed months ago, is that as businesses come here, we choose the kind of business that will help fund impact fees, because as growth comes, as trucks tear up the roads and stuff like that, so we are addressing those things, and we have been starting to do that. But again, as you said, when it comes to county and city, it's gonna be kind of, depending on whichever is gonna affect. So, It could happen, but like Brian said, it could be a lot.
Okay, so y'all have already talked about drainage, which is, I get that, yeah, there's a creek back there, I get that. Internet, I know this sounds almost like I'm reaching, but, right now, our internet, the way we get it is wireless. We have no, hard lines out there to connect to that would get you anything more than, you remember the old rotary system? So we put them on our roofs and we, get wireless service. So if we add these homes, you're talking about splitting those signals up unless y'all are thinking somewhere along that infrastructure line as well.
My assumption is that the developer would be working directly with either AT&T or Charter to bring, I don't know if there's fiber out there. Chad, do you have any, have you made any contacts yet?
If there is a current cable that's reasonably close, AT&T is gonna be all very excited about running, fiber throughout our community. And, they just jump at the chance to do that. So, we will get into that phase when we move into construction and design.
Okay.
So
it might benefit us.
Yeah.
Because it's running so close.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the way it is, I get back.
To answer your question, in our comprehensive plan, that is something that, as a city, we have brought up, because as we bring people here, we have people leave because of their, even in the city, like where we live.
Right.
It's pretty bad, so that is something that we have addressed in the comprehensive plan, to try to get better countries and better internet out here, because we do want people, especially now with what we've been through the last 2 years, a lot of people working.
Exactly. We depend on it. It's not nice to have, it's a must. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that has a question about this item?
I do. My name is Eve Spearman. My address is 925 FM 2377. My concern would be regarding the placement of the commercial property and the developers. It appears to be the developer and city's comment to add a wood fence along the length of the back of this project. I was wondering if there was any way to address that through a screening barrier rather than a wooden fence for at least the minimum of the commercial property.
Yes, ma'am. This is Ben Hartman, city engineer. There is a screening wall on the commercial property. I guess I'm not 100% sure maybe where you're exactly talking about, but I'll show you. Can you see the screen right now where my
Yes, sir.
cursor is moving through? Okay, the brick screening goes around this commercial like this. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
That is just the back and the west side of the commercial property. I'm talking about the east side of the commercial property that is adjacent. Yes, that portion.
Okay, so our zoning ordinance requires that when the commercial developer develops that property, that they utilize brick screening adjacent to any residential zone subdivision, or any
All right.
residentially zoned land. And I think there's a house right next to it, so we would take that intent of that zoning and define that as, even though it's in the county, we would define that as residential.
All right, and then my next concern would be regarding the entrance and exit areas for that said commercial property. It's not mentioned at all on this plan.
So, as we've kind of talked and the developer alluded to, there's no real viable commercial that's going to be able to go here for years.
You can throw a 7-Eleven up anywhere.
Okay. So the entrances and exits are going to be dictated by TxDOT along 2377. Along Pratt, it would probably be up here in this area. As you can see here, the future roadway alignment will look something like this. this isn't a design, this is just a schematic. But
Uh-huh.
it won't be as close like this. So you'd end up most likely with an entrance over here. And then I don't know, but I don't think TxDOT would allow, a driveway this close to that intersection. But I can't promise
Okay.
that. They would have to go through the permitting process.
That's just a
Obviously,
really
they could not
dangerous
come over
intersection,
your
so I was
land.
curious.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I said, that's just a really dangerous intersection, so I was curious as to how they would add an entry off 2377.
My thought would be is that in the future, when it gets widened, it will probably become signalized, with a traffic signal,
Okay,
which would increase safety and reduce, accidents, but we're talking about a pretty long time in the future.
all right. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the other fence along the back of this development was to be a wooden fence that would be maintained by the HOA?
It would be maintained by the individual property owners at the behest of the HOA, as in, the HOA would be dictating the color of the stain, so it was all uniform. So it wouldn't be like this guy's got light brown stain and this guy's got dark stain. It would be a uniform look.
But the fences would be
That makes
required
sense.
upon the development of each lot?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you for answering my questions.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Is there anyone else, that has any questions regarding agenda item C? Motion to close the public hearing.
Chairman, can I address one comment?
Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
I wanted to honor you and the development over on Benson Lane, and just let you know that wrought iron fence that we have up there is gonna be green screen. In other words, we're gonna have vegetation all along that will be maintained by the HOA. So there's not gonna be a visual, penetration through those fences. It'll be the fence and then the green screen. Just wanted to come back to you. I know exactly what you're talking about, and we don't want that either there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a motion to, close the public hearing. Hearing has been closed. Commissioners, any, questions y'all have about the agenda item C?
Brian, so if we go with vegetation for this, can we require the minimum height? Because if you plant a shrub in those spaces, you're looking at 5 to 10 years before they grow.
Yes, you can require that. You would require it in terms of, species and gallon size, I believe, is how shrubs are dictated, versus trees, which you typically do caliper size.
1 gallon. And they met requirements, but it's still not gonna adjust.
Yep.
So we need to make sure that we.
Again, that's, and
We can recommend that.
yeah, you can recommend that to council, certainly. And I think, it kind of goes back to his original point is, staff's asking for all these details and we're not used to that. I think other cities have very, very robust landscaping base requirements. We have, throw some trees out there and call it a day, and so when it comes to and that's on commercial. So we're talking about residential, we have none.
Correct.
So we have to specify it, and when we get to these, more complicated, bigger, developments, we just have to nail it down, because we don't know what we're reviewing.
With us going forward with this, we make those recommendations to council or to staff? To make sure
Your recommendation is
based
to
on.
council.
Right.
So those recommendations have to be added.
Right, so.
Yeah, so,
Whatever recommendations we have.
We'll do the approval based on recommendation, and that is address the council that the issue with the thing that wrought iron fence. If it is gonna be approved at that point, that we have the minimum, gallon size to cover that fence from day one, not from 5 years down the road, or even with the missionary.
I don't even know what that is. Like, I don't even know what that looks like. If it's a 56 gallon or 2 gallon, I don't know.
No,
I don't know the
I
answer.
understand. I mean,
I guess I don't know how to direct you to, or I don't know how to help you on that.
where's council? He's not here.
I guess once you read the agenda and see the recommended action. Landscape, we got.
Can we go back to the,
recommended action?
Yeah. So we can specify a height, or a breadth of the screening, or, you know, you could say, 4 foot tall or 5 foot tall.
Did you have that picture earlier, that little idea that you just, what we're kind of hoping they might suggest or whatever?
On, which,
I saw a picture of it, right in front of it.
well, they did provide one, oh man, where did I? Put it in the PowerPoint.
Here's my question to you, Vincent. Can we approve this with these items being?
This is what the applicant provided. So here's the column and then the shrubs. So if that's not tall enough for you, or if those shrubs, I don't even know what kind of shrubs those are. So I don't know if they grow tall or not.
Do you know what type of?
I think Nellie R. Stevens, okay, is a type of shrub that's oftentimes used for this, and it's a classy leaf on it. Acting like I know, I'm just a developer, but, and if we do these here and this are probably about 2 to 3 foot high. If we did something 4 foot, just require us to do a 4 foot Nellie R. Stevens bush. When it's planted. And we'll figure out the gallonage, but that way you've got the 4 foot height.
Can I ask a question? I just had to ask your.
You okay?
A question for the staff or for the developer?
Probably could be both.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Alice Castell. We are at 110 Grada, and we're really new, so I barely remember the address. But since there will be 3 entrances at Vincent's, will the homeowners association have a speed limit, so Vincent doesn't turn into a racetrack?
Standard speed limit out there is 30 miles an hour.
30?
I don't know if it'll be signed. I don't know if there's a sign out there now. It'd be replaced. I'll have to go out there and look. And that's usually handled at construction plan
What
time.
do you do in the circumstances, somebody, getting a new race car or whatever, and they're speeding down that road because you have 3 entrances
Right.
on that road?
So I know the city won't put speed bumps, and we've been through that with different.
Yeah.
What was that?
The fire department and the police department are totally against that speed bumps, so.
Yeah, I don't like them
Yeah.
myself.
So what we probably could do is just, the county, that's the county, sure, and then kind of monitor it, but as far as speed bumps,
I just didn't know if it was something that was covered with the homeowners association, if there was like a problem household, because that does happen in neighborhoods where you have a problem household, or you have problem teenagers or whatever, and nobody controls that situation, and it would be, I'm sure that the neighbors don't want a racetrack there on the road.
That'd be a city issue, right?
Yes, it would just be a police department,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Commissioners, have any questions? Any more ideas, questions? And can I have a motion, please? Item C.
I make a motion we approve the agenda item C, and include these conditions with the brick screen wall along the track, and, developer working with staff to provide more detailed concepts for the aesthetic elements, screening, landscaping, and neighborhood amenities, and features. Also provide a corner feature treatment to enhance vision, enhance landscaping inside the corner of traffic. Again, just kind of work with staff. It sounds like they've got a great relationship.
Okay. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Agenda item C has been approved. Moving on, agenda item D is also to, conduct a public hearing and consider zoning change from commercial district C1 to plan development district, zoning district, 136 for an existing auto minor repair use to allow for a reduction in landscaping, lot depth, and park requirements due to site constraints on approximately 0.347 acres at the property addressed at 501 North State Highway, 342 Road in the city of Red Oak, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C22-07, question by Mr. Amir. Staff.
So this is this used to be the Red Oak Tire and Wheel, if y'all remember that place on 342. Triumph is right over here. You've got Foxworth Gabriel, Lumber Company across the road, is everybody kind of familiar with the area? So essentially what happened is somebody came in, they bought it, and they had to do a change in CO. Our ordinance requires that when you change your CO, you got to meet all your parking, landscaping, and dumpster requirements. So this was an existing building that was zoned in after it has already existed, and so they've got to meet those requirements. So they couldn't because of site constraints, and so what they provided is basically the best they can provide. So it's an auto shop. It's roughly, it's like 3,000 square feet, which would require a lot of parking. Do you remember what the parking was supposed to be on that?
With parking, they were supposed to have 17.
Yeah, 17 spaces on this because our parking requirement for an auto lube shop is one per 200 plus one per bay. So they've got 3 bays, plus the square footage requirement. So it's a lot. They're only able to provide about 6, but they've been operating there as a auto repair minor for years. And it hasn't been an issue. So we're kind of just zoning this to allow them to keep operating the way it's been operating. But they are upgrading the site. They, currently, there's a lot of gravel, parking, there's a gravel driveway. So they're converting all that to concrete and they're adding some landscaping. So you can see here, they like the addition of the planters, so they did provide those, at the bay door, entrances. They're providing some additional landscaping out here. And then some additional, no, I think these are existing. So it's mostly adding some shrubbery in the frontage, along the frontage. Most of these other trees are existing on the site.
Is there a dumpster there?
Yeah, there's currently a dumpster right here, and it is screened appropriately per our ordinance. This is the existing, front view. You can see there, they've got the gravel, so that's all gonna go to concrete. It is already masoned, so you've got brick on the front, you've got stucco on the side, so it meets our 100% masonry requirements. That storage is hidden in the back there. This is the backside along the railroad track, so no real concern of aesthetic and from that perspective. But
So who this, when they come and they sell it, let's say 5 years down the road, they come back to change it to something else?
so yes, if it changes, if someone wants to make it like, you know, Pete's Automotive Hamburger Joint or something like that, yeah, they'll have to come back for that. So basically, all they're allowed to do is, auto lube, what's called auto repair minor, which includes things like changing tires and, changing oil and stuff like that. They can't replace somebody's engine, and they can't do like paint and body work, which is not their intent, for the applicant, is just to be auto lube service business.
So they're just trying to continue what they already have there.
Essentially. It was a tire shop and now it's a lube shop, so it's a little different, but based on our zoning ordinance, it's the same thing.
This is a, public hearing. Those who are in favor of this item, and item B, to the microphone, and you state your name and your address. Or if we have someone on Zoom that's in favor of this item, please state your name and your address. Anyone against this item or any questions regarding this agenda item? Have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding agenda item D? Based on the drawing we're looking at, the photos. Question?
Motion to approve as presented, as for.
All in favor? Aye. Agenda item D has been approved. Moving along, agenda item E, which is, conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change from Plan Development District, zoning district 10, PD 10 R1, to allow for a reduction in parking due to right-of-way taken by TxDOT on White Oak 54 on approximately 1.155 acres on lot 1R, block C of S&H Business Park, Phase 1, addressed as 109 Harris Avenue, City of Red Oak, Texas. Case number Zebra E22-08, requested by Golden Arch Limited Partnership.
Okay, so this is another one, where we've got TxDOT, taking a little right away to expand Ovilla. They're affecting the, McDonald's, a little more severely than some of the other, projects along Ovilla. So they're actually gonna have to, demolish a portion of the building and rebuild it. And that deals with their traffic flow. So right now they've got kind of this loop that goes around, and the amount of area that TxDOT was gonna be taking was gonna be cutting into this front lane. So they're actually cutting off a portion of the front building and in order to put that lane back through. So, and then additionally, we had landscape, or did they meet all the landscaping? They met all the landscaping, but they couldn't meet the parking. They were short, a couple of spaces. So you can see here, they've put back in the driveway, and then the building footprint is slightly smaller. than previously. They are trying to add as much parking as they can in the back. So they're actually gonna get rid of this driveway on the side. So right now there's a driveway here, and so they're gonna close that up, do landscaping across there, and then they're gonna add a driveway back here as well as, incorporate more parking there. In doing that, they're also relocating their dumpster. Right now, it's here. It's gonna end up back here in this corner. You can see it right here. And, yes, these are the elevations for the new storefront. So it'll be, let's see. So this will be the new storefront. So it's stucco and stone, meets all of our requirements. This is all brick and stucco with stone accent, but meets the standard requirements for commercial development. And there was no issue with the sign, right? Yeah, so the sign is remaining in place. Yeah. So if you have any questions, let us know.
Okay. Thank you, Benny. This is a public hearing. Those in favor of this item, please state your name and your address. You're present here today.
This is Matt Corti, 8951 Cypress Waters Boulevard, Dallas, Texas. I'm the engineer of record for the project with Langen Engineering. Here to just answer any questions if you happen to have any.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to vote against this item or have any questions? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Okay.
Public hearing has been closed. If there's any questions for the applicant on this agenda item? E. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion that we approve agenda item E as presented to staff.
All in favor? Ayes have it. Agenda item E has been approved. Moving along, agenda item F, which is conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change from Plan Development Zoning District 86, PD 86 to Plan Development Zoning District PD 886 R1 for single-family homes and associated open spaces on approximately 6.694 acres out of the Robbinsdale Survey Abstract number 60, further described as being journey located north of Pierce Road and approximately 157 feet west of Dunn Street, City of Greenville, Texas. Case number Z is Zebra C22-09, requested by JTMN Corp. and Johnny N.
Okay, Leroy, I don't know if you remember this one. This is, I think you were on when this came through originally. So in 2017, there was a developer that wanted to do single family right in this area. Here's Pierce, Dunn, and 342. They, I think, had somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 lots or so. But when it went through zoning, it was approved. But then when they went through the actual engineering process to lay out the lots and do all their fine dimensions, it kind of didn't work. And so that was kind of right when I was coming on board, and I was doing the plan reviews for them, and the zoning didn't match the engineering, and so on and so forth. Anyway, it just kind of, the process just stopped. And so now they're back addressing those issues with a new engineer. and doing it, the layout is essentially the same. I think they have 26 lots total. Yeah, 26 lots total. We nailed down some of the housing elements. So it's extremely similar, from a layout perspective. There's a little more detail, as to what the subdivision will look like and what the requirements are for the home. So I will run through that for you. Okay, so here is the layout. It's a very simple horseshoe. There's not much else to do from a layout perspective. We've got divided entries, much like we're doing on almost any other subdivision right now. They have provided some of the things we were just talking about. So we've got the perimeter fence here that's wood. It's got cap and trim. It's going along the existing home here, as well as back here. And then we've got I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? The type B is the brick wall. So we've got a brick wall going along this side here, which the reason for that is that this backs up to commercial property. And so, you know, our ordinance kind of goes both ways. It says if you're developing commercial and you're next to residential, then the commercial development needs to put in the wall. If you're residential and you're next to commercial, you need to put in the brick wall. So that's kind of where that comes from. So we've got type C wall along the back there, which is wood fence, and then wood fence along this side as well, the existing homes, which makes sense. And then in the front, there is the type A along the frontage here, and I'll get to an exhibit that shows it a little better. But you'll notice there's this pretty big gap in between the right-of-way and the first lot, and there's a significant amount of drainage coming down Pierce Road that has to be accounted for. Kind of show you in the street view here. So you can see you've got a ditch along Pierce, and then you can see right there where some drainage is coming out of the neighborhood, comes down Pierce, gets picked up there. Then you've got all of this coming down here, across here, and then across the frontage. So this is the property here. So they've got to make room for this ditch to accommodate the drainage. So this is their entryway plan. And this is, you know, similar to what we were just talking about in the other one. It just provides enough detail that we know what they're trying to accomplish. So you've got brick screening along here, and then they've got kind of a monumentation sign here in the center. It's 13 feet wide, 8 feet tall, with stacked stone top cap. They're also doing the decorative lighting and street signs, and again, here's a elevation of the entryway. In the back side of the subdivision, they've got an amenity lot here, where they're gonna have their, cluster mailbox center. And they've provided some examples. Here, they've got one here with the pergola, and then, but they're also, stating that it's not gonna look exactly like this. This is, a concept. They are committing to doing the stone, around as an accent to it underneath the pergola. But this is kind of a nice little landing zone within the center of the community, for the residents. This is a much smaller one than we were previously talking about, so it's almost not guaranteed, obviously, because people are lazy, but in general, it's a much easier walk to get here, right? So the thought would be that a lot more people would walk to get their mail and enjoy this small kind of parklet space. Their detention area is located here for similar reasons that we discussed earlier. It's the low point of the site. There's a big culvert that crosses here, so it'll collect here and then release into the culvert into the existing drainage ditch. But again, it's just kind of showcasing what the entrance will look like with the landscaping and sidewalk features. So just to note, these sidewalks will be put in by the developer up to the first lot, and then once it gets to a lot line, then the builders will start putting in the lot. So you can see here they're doing the ornamental iron fence with the stone columns around the detention area and along the lot line. We have elevation.
The front, Jason.
So we're at a 75-25 mix on the elevation. I'm sorry, on the garage entries. Yeah, garage entry shall be a mixture of 25% front entry and 75% J entry. I'm sorry, they did provide elevations, and I have them in the packet. I'm sorry about that. Okay, there we go. Apologies, this would be included in the ordinance. So 100% masonry on the front, 80% on the remaining elevations. So they did provide a lot of a lot of front entry elevations, but it's limited to 25%. And I believe this was 2,200, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are also minimum 2,200 square foot. But these are the concept elevations, so, something that, as a city, we're looking for, in terms of roof pitch and material mix and material type. I think that's it, unless y'all got any specific questions.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. This is a public hearing, So those that are in favor of this item, please state your name and your address. If you're present. You for this item. Or if you're against this item, if you have any questions, please state your name and your address.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hi there. Yes, my name is Gina Garcia. Address is 104 Dove Hill Circle in Red Oak. I am for this project. We are the consultant firms representing our client on this project. I am the engineer, and my partner Brandon is also on the line. He is more on the architectural side. So as you can see, this is an empty piece of land. So we are bringing some improvements, a lot of improvements to the area. We'll be improving the drainage. We'll be improving water and sewer. Something that Ben asked for was to make a sewer upgrade to the line running parallel along Pierce Road there across the development. So that would be something good for the community. We've worked with the city back and forth trying to come up with these requirements, aesthetic wise, all of the elements. So we're very happy with what we have presented and feel that is definitely in very much needed improvement area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any other comments or questions? Can I have a motion to close the public?
Motion to close the, agenda item.
Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, have any questions or? And can I have a motion, please, for agenda item F?
I motion to approve agenda item F as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Ayes. Ayes have it. Agenda item F has been approved. Moving along. Agenda item G is conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change from agricultural district to plan development zoning district CD 137 for a mixture of retail uses on approximately 26.69 acres as the 836 GC Park Survey addressed as 100 Interstate 35 in the city of Red Oak, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C22-10, requested by Moore Inc.
So this is one of our prominent highway frontage areas. This is Mara Estates here, the Hamptons event venue. 35 is right here, Red Oak Road. So this is actually a really big deal for the city from a development standpoint. So we definitely want to make sure we get it right. So the first thing we do is look to the visioning in our comp plan, right? So we look to the I-35 corridor vision plan. It talks about this area as well as a lot of the other areas up and down 35 as being a retail power center, right? Big box and sit-down restaurants and retail and things like that. Want to make sure that we don't end up with another Beckley Pikes at one of the most traveled intersections in Ellis County, right? So we certainly want to get it right. So the applicant has purchased the property, and they are kind of looking to, from what I understand, they're not necessarily wanting to develop it right away, but they are wanting to have some zoning in place to ensure its marketability, so that they can go out and find the users that would want to build the big box or build the restaurant or build the retail, so that they can market it appropriately with some entitlements in place. And so the way that we've asked them to set this up is basically what we call is a bubble map, which is different from what we're used to seeing are things like concept plans, development plans, which are extremely detailed. This is more of a concept plan, with these colors being the bubble. And so I had asked the applicant to break it out into more sections that showed more detail, but they came back with this plan that met the intent of my comments with only 2 sections. So the thought would be is that you've got your kind of your big box guy in the back, whether it's a Home Depot or a Lowe's or a Target or even a grocery store like a larger Kroger or something like that, in the back with some retail pad sites kind of out in the front. One thing the applicant was adamant about was maintaining his ability to have a gas station user here. From a staff perspective, we don't really have an issue with that, especially if it's a big box user that has a gas component to it. I think what in writing the actual, the very few requirements that we included in this PD is we just wanted to make sure it was big enough, that it could function on its own like a QT or something like that. So we put a minimum of 3,500 square foot of AC, kind of, I guess you would call it retail space, but a standard QT is about, or a racetrack is similar to that size.
So the area to the east is going to be facing the new apartment center corner.
Yes, that area, this area right here is the multifamily under construction.
So the gray area, are they planning on putting anything with that in the future, or?
So there's a pretty significant creek that runs back through here, and so they're leaving that all kind of not natural, but landscape. And so part of, and we'll get to the landscape plan, but we'd want to see this, underbrushed and then, maintained. So they provided some examples and some notes on that. But I think the focus here is kind of having the big box. Our comp plan really envisions that. The I-35 corridor vision plan really wants to see a large-scale user along 35.
That accommodates some target.
It would. I don't think the Super Target would utilize it, but I think the square footage would allow for that. Kind of the way it's identified now. Again, this is just a concept plan. This would all change as they get users and they get buildings and things like that. But this would be kind of a retail strip, and a retail strip that would have, your standard HO and C1 uses, maybe a small restaurant, maybe a Subway, something like that, but no drive-throughs. They're showing drive-through, restaurants with drive-throughs on each one of these. The text does limit it to 2, like, quick serve type restaurants, which, we have a ton of quick serve on Ovilla. I'd rather not see quick serve on the frontage. I'd rather see it on Red Oak Road.
Could a bank be there, one of those drive-through areas?
Do what?
A bank.
A bank? That is one of the listed uses you could have there. I want to say our base ordinance requires an SUP to have a drive-through on a bank. But I think in general, that actually even got included? Yeah, bank savings, okay. I think doesn't it say SUP drive-in only? I'd have to go read the definitions. But I seem to remember that a drive-through requires SUP on drive-through bank. But in any case, the way it's been set up, and there's some language in the text, is that, you know, this is really a document that allows them to go, like I said, market the property for sale. And anytime, because it's a concept plan, our zoning requires a development plan, which is far more detailed. So when they get those tenants or users that want to take down the property, then they'll come in for a zoning change again, and they'll present the plan with the individual site plan that they're doing. You know, if it's just one, you know, say quick serve restaurant, it would just be for that building, for that user, and they would provide a site plan and their elevations and things like that. So you would see it again before anybody else comes in here with a chance to comment on it and make a recommendation to council. So the landscape plan, I kind of talked about this. They're providing a little bit of a nature trail. There's a big old kind of stock pond back here. I don't know that it's natural. It was probably cut by some farmer 100 years ago or something. But they are calling out to kind of undercut this area so that it's actually usable and not just a big, dense, you know, brushy jungle. But this is extremely conceptual on the rest. So again, it would be at the time of development that they actually bring in said user. The said user would you know, for example, if it's this guy, he would provide his own site plan with his own elevations, with his own landscape plan. So again, you'd have the ability to review and comment and make recommendation to council on any subsequent zoning change.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
At what point is transportation impact? Like West Red Oak Road, right now, I mean, I'm envisioning a light, that service road. I mean, that with the impact of the apartments that are going in, I'm really concerned about the traffic on that road. No light.
So likely we'd be looking at, depending on the development, depending on how it gets developed, possibly having to do a TIA with either the engineering plans, or if it is a big of enough concern at the time of zoning, we would ask for it at the time of zoning too. Now, just to remind everyone, this is a TxDOT controlled roadway. Here.
That service road is gonna change anyway. Remember, when they started on the bridge, going across the hill, because if you look at the drawing, it's actually gonna move back down.
Right.
So that will line, and will change that on and off ramp.
Yes, it will. I don't know the timing of that right now. That's, I don't know that they were including that section with the SPUI bid letting. I'd have to go double check. But I know there are additional plans along these corridors.
Aren't they starting this month, allegedly, for the bridge?
It has not been let yet, as far as I know. I'll have to look back and from our last meeting notes. But that's all I really have to say. It's a very basic element PD that is really kind of just, again, allowing them to have some basic marketability skills for the landowner.
This is a public hearing, so those are in favor of this item, please state your name and your address, please. Be present, or if you're on.
Good evening. Tobias Albert, 2017 Main Street, Frisco, Texas, here on behalf of landowner. Like that Marvin said, it's basically to establish a base zone. It does really comply. It's zoned ag today, so it would have to be really rezoned before any major development took place anyways. We built in good ways, really for the highest and best use. It aligns with the city's future vision for that. It aligns with the city's need for another big box user. To my knowledge, it's just Walmart. For a city this size, there's no other real grocery stores that amount to this map. We really see it as a neighborhood use development where that's a home improvement store, a grocery store, whatever that use may be in that big box, that it's a use for the community, for the neighborhoods. Really the other uses there are just supporting uses. They're your uses that you're going to be needing. The incidental uses where you run into one of those big boxes and, oh yeah, I need to stop here and grab gas or, grab dinner for my family, things like that. That's really the intent here that we're trying to capture. As Ben stated, it does allow flexibility. That's intentional. We don't have 6 tenants signed up, to go in tomorrow and start construction, right? But it does allow enough flexibility where we can be selective based on the interest that's out there and then plan for that. We're aware that it would have to come back before you guys for development plan and final site plan, things like that. So the intent there is basically to fall in line with the zoning that's established here tonight. And then basically we can start basically finding users and tenants that would fit this zoning and would fit this need for the development. And then present the development plan back to you guys once we have that finalized. Happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of the background here, what we're looking to achieve.
And I'm sorry, I forgot to include this in the presentation, that they, provided some examples of big box users and then also some examples of the quick serve restaurants, kind of form, and then the retail center form as kind of a baseline.
And those again will come back before you.
Right.
Anyone else, for this item or any questions? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Did you have something? Yeah.
You said your name and your address, please, of course.
Barry Brewer, 196, State 35 and a half. And then one question for signage. The idea on signage, where would that be located?
So when it comes back for the development plan process, they will include, as part of their package, they'll do site plan, a landscape plan, building elevations, and either the landscape or site plan usually includes a signage package, or they would follow our base sign ordinance.
What is that, if you don't mind me? Because being in the wedding business, I hate for someone to just look at it, see how large Home Depot sign when you're trying to take a picture.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, that's the only concern that I would have. I don't have a problem. It's just fine.
I know we have in the past looked at, dropbacks as far as you doing cluster signs and things like that. That's something that we went through with the neighbors on the other side of the street, as well as with Taylor, so that would be something that we definitely would want, not to impact one another. Because we have, I think, 3 months ago, when one of the tenants wanted to put up this huge sign, and that's something that we wanted to be consistent. We weren't not knocking Lancaster, but we don't want to look like Lancaster, where you got signs all over the place. So that is something that we will address, because with your business and the way that it is there, we want something that will complement it, not detract from it.
I think our current, if I'm remembering right, I think our current pole sign, which is what's typical on HO zoning on highways, I believe the top height is 50 feet, I believe.
And that will be down, also where the elevations are down. be as opposed to like,
Right.
on the other side of the street where it's up. So it would be a little bit lower than your grading is actually from just looking at.
Right, but again,
Right.
that'll be part of the submittal package, and you'll get noticed again when they do, submit that as a zoning change.
I was told it was going to be a multi-family, so I'm happy to hear this.
No, we definitely, like I said, Market Street will be changed.
Mr. Brew, yours is north of that, right? That's your project there?
Yeah, the house.
Okay.
Beautiful venue.
You come through the process.
Very good.
Any more questions or concerns? Motion to close, please.
Motion to close agenda item G.
Commissioners, any questions? Staff? All right, and can I have a motion for agenda item G?
I make a motion to approve agenda item G as it is presented to staff.
All in favor? Aye. Agenda item G has been approved. Keep it on.
Thanks, Matthias.
Thank you, sir. Next agenda item is item H, not a public hearing. Is consider approving the preliminary plat for the proposed plan development district PD 134 for approximately 114 single-family homes, associated open spaces, and one commercial lot on approximately 84.54 acres at a survey abstract number 1103, further described and being currently located southeast corner of Benton Lane and Pratt Road, Texas, case number PS 22-02, requested by Wildwood Development Company.
So this is, we typically have these preliminary plats or plats on the consent agenda, but because, we didn't have the zoning approved yet, we needed to go through the process and have it, after, and not on consent. So my recommendation, though, would be to approve it, with all engineering comments being addressed and any changes that result from the motion previously to the zoning, just in case there's tweaks or anything like that are required from the zoning motion.
Motion is coming from.
Somebody's got to make the motion to approve it.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm saying, just make sure when you motion, to address those items, just in case it changes something.
Make a motion to approve agenda item H as per the engineering, issues that have been addressed and the,
All in favor? Agenda item H has been approved. Moving on, agenda item J, is also to, non-public hearing, consider approving an amendment to the City of Red Oak, Texas 2010 Comprehensive Plan, future land use map to change certain areas.
Wait, did we skip one?
I'm sorry, I think I did.
Yeah, we should be on
Oh,
I.
I'm sorry, Ready to correct myself. We're going to agenda item I, and, consider approving the preliminary plat for the proposed plan development district 86R1 for the development of 26 single-family residential lots and 7 common areas on approximately 6.694 acres out of the Rockville Survey abstract number 60, further described as generally located north of Pierce Road and approximately 157 feet Dunn Street in the city of Red Oak, Texas, case number PS 22-04, requested by JT Court, Johnny and Tommy Nguyen.
So this is preliminary plat for the other one over there off Pierce Road. We didn't have any changes to it, so you can approve it as presented.
make a motion to approve agenda item I, as previously stated. We, discussed before.
All in favor?
All right.
I. The next agenda item is item J, and it's their approving an amendment to the land use map to change certain areas generally located north of FM 2377, south of Pierce Road, east of Osby Drive, and west of Pratt Road, planning area 4, 10, and 11, planning area 5, -5, requested by the city staff. Ben.
So as you guys know, we've got a lot of interest lately from big tech companies, since we've been doing business now with Compass and Google and Triumph, and you know, they're all anyway, the city's garnering the attention. We're getting requests for from companies like that of where they might be able to develop in Red Oak. And right now, all of our large land parcels are kind of either in the ETJ or a little further out to the east. And so, as y'all know, we're kind of going over the future land use plan as well as the comprehensive plan. And we're starting, in the new plan, we're identifying some of these areas out here that have these larger tracts as, I can't remember the exact term we use for it, but it's like technology development opportunity areas. And it's basically to allow for a wider range of development, where classically only, you know, large lot residential has been. And so, so in this case, we're looking at an area that is kind of ripe for development at the time, right now. And so we're wanting to stick our PA5 label on this area to allow some of those tech companies to maybe make a run at some of these bigger properties out here that are available for development. And so it doesn't restrict anything or really change anything. It simply adds the allowance for that P&Z and council could approve something like a big tech development in our city.
It's not, I'm a little confused. The thing where it says area of focus, is that where they're focusing?
No, I'm sorry. The area of focus is where we're gonna be changing.
Okay.
The request is to change this area to what's called PA5. So PA4 right now, let me kind of zoom in here for you.
Where's PK? That's the area?
Yep, Con Hill is down here. Sorry, this area of focus has a line leader going off to it. It's actually this area. So right now, it's PA10 and PA4, which you come down and read. You've got mixed-use development, commercial, single-family residential, and then, or single-family residential. And so what we're requesting to do is to change it to PA5, which allows mixed-use development, commercial, industrial, transit-oriented development, and single-family residential. And so part of the transit-oriented development is industrial-type users, which is kind of what we kind of classify those technology guys into, not because they're like a big, dirty industrial developers, just because they utilize humongous buildings and occupy large areas of space. And so, you know, a lot of times, just like with anything, technology is like making leaps and bounds ahead of what government is doing, right? And so, and even in the planning world, so we don't even have definitions for what they are, so they kind of get lumped into this, and even though they're a very clean, you know, type developer, they get kind of lumped into the industrial just because of the scale of what they do. And so the only thing, so it's, this area still allow, you know, if a residential developer wanted to buy it, it still does allow it. It just gives the opportunity for those technology guys to look at it and say, oh, so your future land use plan does allow something like that. So what we're doing is changing the future land use plan, which is not a zoning map. We're not changing the zoning. We're merely saying that here's an area that we want to identify as being able to have a large technology developer. And so,
My question is, are there homes there now, or is this, or we're?
I think there might be a couple, but I think they also, some of the homes, I think, own a lot of the land too, so that it would be like a package, I would assume.
Okay.
I didn't go visit every parcel, so I can't speak for that exactly, but again, this isn't zoning,
No.
and I don't want to, like, say an area, because a future land use map specifically does not constitute zoning.
Gotcha.
And so it's meant to be a bubble. It looks kind of clear, but it's just because you go from road to road. So it's really just a bubble of an area. So now along Pierce, there's a lot of existing homes, and that's why we kind of stopped it around here, just so that you weren't including a bunch of existing homes. It's more the big open areas out here that are maybe a little more prime for a large land use developer. So again, this is, we're wanting to change this now. It is in the comp plan that we should be adopting sometime this summer, which is a whole new comp plan. It's got this area as well as some of these other areas out here that are also large tracts identified as this like technology development opportunity area.
Can I have a?
Are we just motioning to approve
Yes.
for the city to make
Yes.
that change?
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to I make a motion to, approve agenda item J as recommended for staff. For changes.
All in favor? Aye. Agenda item J has been approved. I believe that's it for tonight. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Thank you everyone tonight.